Welcome to the Woman in Power Conversation with the President. My name is Joan Beland. I am the founder, president, and CEO of the Women's Chamber of Commerce of Nevada. Each week we will have conversations with our members, corporate partners, community leaders, and board members, committee directors, and entrepreneurs of tomorrow. Our guest today is Dr. Marlene Adrien. Marlene, welcome.
My pleasure to be here, June. I haven't seen you for a while.
I know. It's a little, I've been off the grid for a little while. But I met you way back, and I was going to bring that up because my daughter's the one that introduced me to you. And you came to my home up on top of the hill at Sunrise Mountain. That's where we had our home at the time.
That's right.
And it's been history ever since. And, so tell me a little bit about your background, because I know you come from a different state. But you have such a history. I am in awe to be with you today because you are teaching us a lot, and I learned from that.
Well, the longer you live, I feel, the more information you have gleaned, and maybe then it's your obligation to share it with everybody. I've watched the Nevada Women's Chamber of Commerce grow, expand. You've done a marvelous job in that area. And at the same time, we've interacted, and I've helped videotape some of your particular programs and award ceremonies. And then I have got new ideas from everybody here. When I came in the mid-1990s, I thought this was the most exciting place in the world. And I've traveled in all the countries in Europe except Portugal, which is one language I tried to learn a little bit when I went to Brazil to be a visiting professor and also help their military with the Air Force do some high technology and analysis of movement. And so, but I never got to Portugal. And I've been to Asian countries and Africa, etc. But it still amazed me here because there were so many dynamic women, and women were in high positions. It was marvelous. People had dreams, just as you did, and they all seemed to be getting their dream to come forth. And again, it reminded me that I had not seen a diverse cultural, ethnic community since I had left Milwaukee, Wisconsin, where I was born. We had a diverse community, and every other place that I lived, in the Northeast, in the Northwest, back to the Midwest again, there wasn't the diversity until I came to Las Vegas, and it seemed like coming back home, even though it was a completely different environment.
Yeah, Las Vegas is different, but it's very, very good though. But again, we ended up, when we started the chamber, our board was not diverse, and now it's so diverse that I'm the only American on it. So this is really good. This is really good for us because it's such a diverse world and everybody's coming here. It was like that in LA, but it's now, Las Vegas is the same. Matter of fact, it's even better. So I agree with you on that. And you've done a lot of work, I pay attention to all the work that you do, and, so that's why you got the Pioneer Award recipient, because you are our pioneer and you teach us, all of us.
Well, thank you. I came here to retire.
So didn't I. Yes, that doesn't work. You know why? Because like you said, we have a lot of knowledge that we can give people, and we can help people. So,
well, the main thing is that I have met in recent years, even back in the state of Washington, a very tiny county seat, Colfax, Washington. And I would go there, do some movement workshops, or talk to the persons who are older, and some of the women would say, I had 10 children, or I had 3 children, and now I have so many grandchildren, and my life is over. It doesn't matter. When I leave this world, I leave this world. And they don't have any cause or any really interest in either sharing or learning. And this is what I feel, that if it comes to the point where I never have a project and I never have a deadline again, which I swore I wouldn't have after I had retired from the profession and the University of Illinois, that then life wouldn't be worth living. So we have to keep thinking about working together,
Yeah.
sharing, and trying to make this a better world.
You and I will never retire. No, because we like to help and give and teach. Yeah. And you have quite a background at that. And you've done a lot of books. You had me involved with do you want to talk about the 150th
Can we go all the way
that you
back to
did?
2014?
Yeah.
Consider that. All right.
Yeah.
That was one of 2 huge projects that I did.
Right.
Following through with Women of Diversity Productions Incorporated, founded in 1992.
Right.
And you know why I founded it?
Why?
Women were having their research manuscripts rejected for publication. And they would say, well, what's wrong? Review us. Tell us what was not done well. And the major reason was the topic was not significant enough because it was related to women. It was related to the women athletes. It was related to maybe the osteoporosis that was occurring in highly competitive women track stars. And in the college level, they were getting some onset of osteoporosis. And well, that wasn't important because the women athletes, it wasn't male athletes. They also had other kinds of things with health and group dynamics of if you have a group of basketball players, why not study how they actually work and interact with each other? And so I come from the field of physical education, and I went into that because when I was young, everybody said, well, there are no opportunities for women. You either become a nurse, you become a teacher, or I don't know, later on it was you could become an airline stewardess. But the thing is, and then I ended up being a teacher anyway, because I was so interested in sports. I was very well skilled. I always said I chose my parents wisely. So I had the endowment of that ability to participate, to learn quickly, to perform well. I was tall, so that is a plus for many sports. It wasn't for gymnastics, but for most of the sports, if you are tall, you have long arms, you have what are called long levers, you could throw a ball faster than somebody else could. And the short golfers had to have extremely well coordinated torso and hip action. Otherwise, if you were tall and had long arms, you just swung the long golf club, the long arms through the torque, and you were better than somebody else if you had equal skill. So it was very well, but at an early age, 7-year-old, 10-year-old onward in Milwaukee, which was very fortunate for me because Milwaukee, Wisconsin had many women in recreation positions, leadership positions. We had our own gymnasium and our own swimming pool, didn't have to share it with the boys because the boys would always share the girls' gym, if there was only one gym in the school, because they had interscholastic sports. They could letter in a sport too. And I could never get a letter. I could never participate in interscholastic sports. And I knew early on that there was inequity of opportunity. There was lack of girls to participate. And I guess that was my passion at that point. So going into women's physical education, I could start early on, do some training of women to officiate so that they could be officials in the games where girls were playing and you didn't always see a male official. So all of that kind of gave me the passion of women. And so in 2014, we had gone on a project and had published a book that represented a lot of our work with Women of Diversity Productions. We interviewed more than 200 women from every county in the state, and in the beginning you would have a picture and introducing the county. was a woman telling about the history of their county. So everything that was put on this was with the idea of saying we must give visibility to women, we need to archive things, and we want to make a woman-appreciated society. And if we don't have the future as one in which women are appreciated, we're going to be back in the stages where we were decades ago, centuries ago, and when we didn't have a right to vote.
Now, you were, I was on in a picture that you had of, there's like 252 women, wall of women.
Yes, the Wall of Women.
What made you come up with that?
That was our first big project because it was the centennial
Okay.
of Las
Okay.
Vegas.
Okay.
So the centennial of Las Vegas,
Yeah, that's
we
where it
thought
is.
was
Okay.
important enough.
Yeah,
So we
show the
reproduced.
audience, yeah.
We reproduced
Yeah.
that so it wouldn't be lost because it's still hanging on a wall in storage in my house. And I brought it out. In 2004, 2005, 2006, it went to Carson City, and it was in the gallery there. And we had women who were in the 40s, and many of them deceased, and now even more so. And it went to 2008, 2005 was the centennial.
Right.
And in 2005, we have a lot of people who are still alive.
Now remember
still there.
when we had one event years ago with the Athena Awards, we put this on a wall. Remember the back wall?
Yes, we
Yes.
did.
Is there any chance to do that again in the future?
Well,
Or is it hard?
No, we still have the wall. We've now put it on foam boards
Okay.
rather than on the
'Cause it was-
fabric.
yeah,
That way,
it was-
but I still have the fabric.
Yeah.
But it's a little wrinkled, and we found a few errors, and some people now have been deceased, so
Right.
it won't be 100% correct. But we used it when we had the dedication of this book, and this book was given to every one of these 200 women.
Yeah, I was there on
we
that.
interviewed.
We try to sign each other's books. Yeah.
And then we gave it to everybody who gave a donation of $30 to help us to publish this, distribute it, etc. And to all the library systems, all the public school systems, and we gave away what was about 1,000 books.
Right.
I have one or two books available, and every once in a while I say, oh, here's somebody, I ought to give it to them. But I don't know that I have enough left now to actually give or tell people it's available. I say, go to your library. But I have this as a PDF, and eventually I will get it posted on our website, womenofdiversity.org.
Right.
And everybody then could print it out on themselves, but it'd become page by page by page. And it would cost a little bit of money if they wanted to reproduce it. So if I can get it to the point where one could print it all out in order with the proper pages, then they could just take it someplace to have it
Have it printed.
put on a wire binding,
I treasure
etc.
mine. I treasure mine. It's in my office.
So those are the two, because when it came to Las Vegas, it was, let's really do all the things we did. while I was a professor. But as a professor, I worked with things that were important to persons who were disabled, did some prosthesis walking studies as to they walk well with the prosthesis they had, what were the difficulties with it, etc. Or we even had forced platforms that people could walk across and you could see if they put the same weight on the right foot as they did on the left foot. Or if they were an athlete, and we tested several athletes who were Olympics and saw as they jumped onto the takeoff to do a high jump, for example,
Right.
you could see how much force they were producing and whether the leg was strong enough. And we always found that high jumpers had very strong legs, one leg, and the other leg was not as strong. Tennis players, you measure all the women tennis players and you will see the girth on their tennis arm always is going to be stronger than the other one. But they try to do cross training so that they will be able to get equal strength on each and be more symmetrical. But they need to develop more strength in a particular part of the body relative to their particular sport that they're introducing. So biomechanics has evolved in the research tools used in physical education. So until I went to graduate school in 59 and then again in 64, I didn't really know too much about research in physical education. We thought we learned by intuition, we learned by studying people experientially. But when I went to University of Wisconsin-Madison and Springfield College, Massachusetts, and also worked in the physiological exercise laboratory, I found that we were now doing things such as electromyography, and if you've been in the hospital, many people know that you put electrodes on the muscles, and then if you did a movement, it would tell if the muscle was working, how hard it was working, was it used and should have been, or was it used and that's what gave them a high performance level. And so I learned quite a bit of how to utilize the different technology, and even was on an experimental group of perfecting electrogoniometry, which means the angle at the joints. Right. And high-speed cameras. We filmed not only humans, we also filmed horses with high-speed cinematography. Seattle Slew years ago, before he got injured, we did various techniques in checking and doing high-speed cinematography with 1,000 frames per second. And so you didn't lose the motion. If you look on television today, you will see some high speed, but in most cases you see the swing up here and golf, then swish, and you might see the ball and you might not, depending upon the framing that you have, but there's a little bit of a blur in there. So that you've developed with the whole skill of how to analyze everything so that we could help improve movement patterns of persons who are have been ill, or muscles have atrophied or something like that, or learn about risk of injury in all of that. So we've done a lot of that, and in that time, this is one of the things that I developed with a co-author, John Cooper, who again is a long-term person working. In fact, he was about 10 years older than I was, and he passed away about 6 years ago. And so we looked at all the different things that you could have, and it was a concept book rather than a teaching of undergraduate what you do to teach, but it gave the idea as to what's the biomechanics of bones, what's the biomechanics of exercise regimes.
That sounds like something I need to know now.
Well, I've done a lot with writing, even in some of the industry magazines and journals,
Yeah.
rather than the strictly research journal, as to what kinds of things are said. In the very early years, and I think it was one of the women's fitness magazines, that would always say, when you want to lift the weights, you stand with your feet shoulder width apart, or greater than shoulder width apart. Well, that's fine for men. Men have shoulders that are wider than their feet.
Right.
But in many cases, if you try to get them way out with somebody who had narrow shoulders, so it's not related to the shoulders, it's related to your hips, your pelvis. So there was a lot of things that were taken from the men's world. And having grown up in the sports world, there's no question that most of the fitness equipment was all engineered, and the early weight machines, etc., they started with weights that were too strong for women, or too strong for children, or even too strong for some of the males that were not athletically excited about life. They wanted to play the viola or the cello, or they wanted to sing or be in the theater, and so they didn't develop the same musculature that we think men do. And all the whole sports world has started because of wars, and they were really war games. It was really to present the men with a way to keep very strong, competitive, aggressive, etc. And we copied so many of the things in the early years from that. And until women from physical education also got to the point of getting master's and doctor's degrees, they didn't know about the world of research. And that's why when I was at Washington State University, I did a series of videotapes on biomechanics instrumentation, because even many of the colleges and universities didn't have the equipment I had, and later that I definitely had at the University of Illinois, one of the top 30 research institutions in the nation. And so it was how to use these, what kind of information you got from these tools, and why not do more. And most of the physical education graduate programs are either called departments or divisions of biomechanics or kinesiology, which was a term
Jeez,
that was
I could listen to you all day, but we don't have all day. But
Anyway.
boy, this is interesting. What is your next project?
Well, we
First-
have a project in going on now, which is called, we started with a Gender Equality Forum, where Chris
Right.
June Giuliani spoke, and we had about a dozen woman-centered organizations give some comment, some information, such as the Commission for Women here in Nevada has been reactivated a couple of years ago, and so the
Okay.
person in charge of that is talking about what the Commission for the state of Nevada is doing, and saying that, you know, Brian Sandoval, the governor, said it's about time that we reactivated that, yes, so that we do have a priority with reference to women and not just the men. And if you look at everything that's going on, so we have women who are saying, you know, quotes about what is important and why we should look at gaming gender equality. So we conducted a survey, tested an instrument, created and talked about all the research that was on there, who the persons were that we interviewed. And in the gaming industry, most of the top gaming corporations have a headquarters in Las Vegas. So of the 20 some we had basically the ones that had throughout the United States, and even had one in Australia that is centered here too. We had everything. And so this is on our website. Everything we do, I like to archive, and we put on our website. Now I'm a little bit behind, but you will find 300 interviews of women on the website. And some are just short clips, and I'm making the large ones as well, but I'm not as far along on those. So if I don't have another project at all, I will have lots to do on putting things in. But this one, we now are in the stage of collecting data for 2018.
Okay.
And we are hoping that it again will show that in many cases, the corporations, not only the gaming corporation, but all corporations, they talk now, the word of inclusion and diversity. But very little is said when you look on the website and you go to the casino sites. They will use those words all over the place, but in most cases they never use the word women, as women being important, because
Yeah, I know.
women are more than 50% of the population. So I think that everybody assumed we didn't have to worry about them because they weren't a minority. But with respect to discrimination, they've been one of the longest minority
I try to
groups.
make noise as much as I can sometimes, you know.
Yeah,
Because
I know.
it's important here, because
So-
again, when I moved here, 94, I was like shocked.
Yeah, right. Well, I was
It wasn't.
pleasantly surprised because although I soon learned that it was sort of an oxymoron here as to what was happening, because in
Yeah.
one case you say, oh, how progressive, how marvelous, and the other case you say, well, that's kind of backward. Why aren't there more progressive in that particular situation?
No.
But we're making progress, and this is one thing we were proud of. And
Yeah, the first, yes, I remember that.
there were more than 800 people who attend this, and we were honoring the 5 living First Ladies. Bonnie Bryant has passed away already, but we did this because the years I was here, and this was again in 2014 when we did the sesquicentennial celebration, we found that every year they would say, oh, we're having the governor's forum, or a meeting of the governors talking about their time when they were a governor, etc. But this is the first time we brought together the women who were in the governor's mansion, and they told their stories, and that's on our website too.
Yeah, I was there.
Women-
That was awesome.
It's awesome
Yeah.
to see them, and they're so excited. I learned so much about them, and that's been my feeling, that if you want to know important people, you want to find out what women are doing in any place in the country. I think if you go to Nevada, we know we have greater number of women-owned businesses, but we have such awesome women in this state that it's just so wonderful.
Well, did you
there.
see our first magazine that we sent out to all the members?
Oh, yes.
Okay, that's the whole purpose. It's to show them on the front cover that that's a national person, but they made it. They worked really hard to get there. But then I wanted to show the women that are here. And of course, I have all the awards and stuff I've done throughout the years, and I'm putting every one of them in each issue that we have, so people see these awesome women we have here.
And can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Do you think I had anything to do with you deciding to do more visibility, more videotaping, more showing women and hearing people talk, hearing the women and the passion in their voices?
Well, I've always had a passion for that because of my mentor, but yeah, you were great, because the first time you came to my house is like, I love women with knowledge and women that are, into women and trying to help women. That's never been done. And meeting you was an inspiration for me to even, that along with the U.S. Chamber, yes. My answer is yes.
Good, thank you, because
Yes.
I always felt in the beginning nobody was interested in funding me to do videotapes. The state was doing books, they were doing slide shows or still life images, and I couldn't get any funding from several sources because they thought it wasn't. I said, look, times have changed. Everybody can do it, and now times have changed. And I just got a letter from another organization that said, we're getting grants, we're doing more things because we worked with you on the project of the sesquicentennial in interviewing these women up in northern Nevada, and we are now doing more of that. And I think it's so marvelous because to me, the passion in the voices, the excitement in the people's faces, it really tells what they're thinking rather than you trying to guess at it and write the thing. Why not also put it on video as well as print it in a book? It still takes a little time to transcribe something and put it on the book. And this is why we started the Women's Sport and Physical Activity Journal in 1992. It's an international research journal. It's got women from different countries, at least 6 or 7 countries in the rest of the world. I belonged to several international organizations. One, I was president of the International Society of Biomechanics. The other, I did some work with them, even helped publish their book on what the status of women was in the country of Turkey.
You know, we could go on with you all day long and probably for, you know, a month. But we have to, you know, cut it short here a little bit. And but I'm so glad that you had a chance to come, because, you know, you're so busy too in your projects and stuff, and I'm so busy. This is the longest we've been together without a crowd around us.
Right, I know. we tried to invite you on July 28th to our joining hands in gender equality, and we had a group of the women, and many of the women's organizations have met with us.
Right.
Been helping to sponsor
but
things.
Unfortunately, because of my health issues, I'm not able to go to a lot of things yet.
So that's the thing that we're going to try to do, and do it with Skype.
But we can
we
also
had 2 people who came on Zoom.
Yeah.
Zoom is a way to videotape and hear and see, and they interact. Anybody, even if you had 50 people in the room, whoever was on Zoom could get a chance to talk to that, so you didn't have to travel.
You know more about that than I do. I don't know anything about that, so I have to get educated on that.
You've got the personnel. You've got the people who are experts here doing the work for you, because you can afford to pay them. But because you came from the business world, I came from academia, and what's our goal in academia? You always do everything to volunteer. You always do everything for the children. You always do everything for the doctoral students. You do everything for everybody else. And I never learned how to raise money. And if I did, I would put the budget down with no padding whatsoever. And I've learned through the years a little bit here and there, but I'm not a fundraiser. I'm not a business person.
Well, I'm a business person, but I'm running a nonprofit. It's called, you know, raise funds all the time. That is the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. I can run a business I've done it for 40 years. But to raise funds as a nonprofit, that is so different. So
I know, and I was fortunate. I only had to do it twice, for the Susquehanna Centennial and the Las Vegas Centennial. Those are the times I really raised it. But if I had to do that every year, every 2 years, every 3 years, I think I would have been over my limits.
We're doing that all the time. So after 16 years, I got it, you know. But I want to thank you so much for coming today. This is great. And I want to thank everybody for watching you today, because you're a part of history here, and we love you.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
My pleasure to be here.
My name is Joan Beland, and I will see you next time.